First this morning, the father of a British jihadi killed in Syria has told this programme that he is desperate to find his grandson left behind in the country. Ash Khurshid, who is a bus driver and acupuncturist from East London, lost contact with his 2-year-old grandson, Salmaan, a month ago. The toddler was living there with his Canadian mother, who supports IS and wants to stay there. Ash and his wife hope to find Salmaan and bring him to the UK to live with them. Here's Poonam Taneja with the background to this story.
In 2013, 18-year-old Haroon Khurshid travelled to Syria from London without his parents' knowledge. His family say he was radicalised by extremist preacher Anjem Choudhury, jailed in 2016 for inviting support for Islamic State group. Once in Syria, it's thought Haroon Khurshid fought with militant jihadist groups. He met and married a Canadian woman, IOHR, and in 2016 they had a son together named Salmaan. A few months after Salmaan's birth, Haroon Khurshid was killed. He was 21 years old. Back in the UK, his parents Ashfaq and Mahfouz Khurshid tried to stay in touch with their grandson Salmaan through video calls made by their daughter-in-law IOHR. A month ago, those calls came to an end, and they're worried. The recent government decision to strip Shamima Begum of her citizenship has raised the issue of Britons who joined Islamic State group who now want to return with their children. It's estimated that more than 2,000 children of foreign fighters are being detained in prisons in Iraq and at camps in Syria. It's not clear how many have British parents and what happens to them. It's why Salmaan's grandparents are desperate to find him and bring him to the UK.
Let's talk now to Ash Khurshid, then, the father of Haroon Khurshid, and also Valerie Peay, who is from the campaign group International Observatory of Human Rights. The group is assisting the family and trying to raise awareness of their situation. Thank you very much for talking to us. Mr. Khurshid, your teenage son was radicalised. He was killed fighting for jihadi groups in Syria, thought to be IS, and you want his son, your grandson, who will be 3 next month, back here.
Yes.
Tell our audience why.
To live in a safe environment where we know that, you know, he's being catered for in the right way. At the moment, we don't know what's happening to him, and it's we're going through a lot of emotional strain. It's a war-torn country. Basic needs are not met. So we're living in worry for him continually, every day.
So it's concern, obviously, for his safety, because he's in a war zone.
Yeah.
But also he is your flesh and blood.
Yes. Yeah.
And a link to your dead son.
That's right.
We're going to show a clip of you having a Skype conversation with your grandson. When was this?
This was about 3 months ago.
Okay, so this is Salmaan on the Skype call. Let's have a look.
Say hello.
Hello.
I love you, Daddy.
Daddy.
And I love you, Dadu.
Daddy.
And come on. And Salmaan, and I love you, Auntie Fiza.
So that was your grandson saying he loves you,
Yeah.
he loves his granny, and he loves your daughter, his auntie.
That's right, yeah.
How does that make you feel when you see that?
Well, I just want him back home and just to be a normal grandparent to him, to love him, cater for him, and
look after him. Do you think the case of Shamima Begum makes it harder for you and your family to get your grandson back?
It does.
Why?
Because the consideration for the children is not there. So, I mean, our main aim is to get the children back, and it's just got to be looked in a humane kind of way, because the children are innocent. So that's what I'd like to say.
How do you think the Home Secretary has dealt with the Shamima Begum case?
I think it's a little bit unfair and a little bit, to be honest, a bit inhumane. Yeah.
The other voice, of course, we heard on that Skype call was your grandson's mum,
Yeah.
IOHR, who is Canadian. Your grandson would have access to British nationality because his dad was British,
British, yeah.
now dead, but also Canadian nationality. And the mum, as far as we know, doesn't want to bring him to Britain.
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yeah.
So how do you see this happening, trying to get your son from Syria somewhere back to this country?
Well, to get the media coverage and then get the International Red Cross, who we've contacted, to do their bit to look out and put as much out, which you've kindly done. It's gonna bring a lot of awareness, and yeah. That's hopefully somebody will be able to locate the mother and the grandson, and we can progress forward.
I wonder if you could describe to our audience what it was like for you and your wife when you discovered that your son had left this country without your knowledge and had become radicalised by the extreme preacher Anjem Chowdhury.
Myself, I was traumatized for the first 3 months, devastated, continually crying, because it's a war-torn country, and the consequences of the action, there is only one outcome. So it's just a matter of waiting for the phone call to receive the news that this is actually happened now. Right. So it's a very traumatic time, to be honest. Very traumatic time.
Did you notice anything different about him in the run up to him leaving the UK?
No, I didn't. I actually was not in his life, so yeah, that's what gave Anjem Chowdhury the opportunity to radicalise him.
Right. How do people treat you as the father of a British jihadi fighter killed on a battlefield somewhere in Syria?
To be honest, I don't vocalise it to a lot of people, so it's pretty much like you can't advertise it.
Because
if you did, you'd probably get people saying, well, this is not a good thing. So it's pretty much you just lead your life in a low-key manner, to be honest.
Because you expect people to shun you?
Shun you, yeah.
Right. Valerie Peay, let me bring you in from the campaign group International Observatory of Human Rights. Should people have sympathy for Ashid Khurshid and his search for his grandson?
Of course they should. Here we are in a situation where this is a very brave thing for Ash to do and his family, to put their head above the parapet. But they've got a small grandchild. He's only nearly 3 years old. They haven't heard from him for a month. Their daughter-in-law, clearly radicalised, but wanted to give this child to them for safety. And this is their chance to really reach out and say, anybody on the ground, the British Red Cross is going to be helping, anyone on the ground that sees this child, because he's only 3, we don't know if the mother is still alive or not, but from what Ash is doing, he's trying to open up the door for all of these other families that can't speak up because they've been cowed by the Home Secretary. So this is our attempt. There's a lot of people helping. ACF, the Active Change Foundation, have been involved as well. And it's really about bringing baby Salmaan home. We've started a campaign. We have Save Salmaan. But Ash has been working with IOHR for a long time on a wider campaign about Not Born a Radical.
Right.
And it's really helping.
And that's your point about the grandson?
Absolutely.
He was not born a radical.
Exactly.
I understand the International Red Cross have taken up this case of potentially looking for this little boy.
Yes.
And what does that mean in practical terms? What will they do? Because you don't have documents, you don't have a birth certificate, you don't have anything like that.
And I think that's what we're trying to find out, what options are available, because Ash isn't the only parent or grandparent who's sitting or watching this. People need to know, they need to get a clear pathway from the government. What options are there? How do they extract their family members? And today it's not clear.
William on Twitter says, my heart breaks for this family. They lost a son first to clerical fascism, then to death, and now their grandchild is missing. We have every reason to exhaust every effort to unite these good people with that little boy. They're all victims of Anjem Chowdhury. Whereas Giles says the fact that children are being born and raised in IS territory is horrible. It's not their fault. But I worry if by rescuing them and their family, it gives the adults a way out. What would you say to that?
I think, so Shamima Begum, we've got a 19-year-old, we've got a Home Secretary who has no faith in all of the incredible security services here. We have people that can run de-radicalisation programmes. So if we can't de-radicalise a 19-year-old and they're worried about a 3-year-old child, it says a lot about our society. I have a lot of faith that bringing some of these parents home, and in Ash's case, his daughter-in-law doesn't want to come to the UK, but surely we've got one of the best places in the world to try and rehabilitate these people.
The government says, the Home Office says, the government doesn't provide support for British nationals in Syria because the UK government doesn't have representation there. So if British children of deprived nationals are able to seek consular assistance outside Syria, then we would work with local and UK authorities to facilitate their return where the parents give consent, but decisions are made on a case-by-case basis. Thank you both. Thank you very much for coming on the programme.